today we have another giant Shein haul.
I am back here again with another Shein haul.
We are doing a $600 Shein haul. Oh, hurry. You already know. If you clicked on this video, you obviously know.
Shein is a global online retailer of fashion, beauty, and lifestyle products.
It's gonna be a giant Shein haul.
As we are going to be trying out a full face of makeup from Shein.
These people who are working 75-hour weeks are making about 2 to 6 cents per article of clothing.
If you haven't watched any of my other Shein hauls, make sure you go do that right here.
This trench coat is hazardous waste.
The level of lead is almost 20 times higher than what's allowed in kids' products.
China employees are crying out for help via hidden messages on its clothing labels.
Despite criticism, Shein is still China's most successful fast fashion label.
I am obsessed.
I want you to close your eyes and imagine for a moment that you are standing in an old, dimly lit room. The air is heavy with the rancid smell of chemicals blending with the stench of human sweat, which would drive anyone away, but not you, because you have no choice. You have to be here. It's your job. Day after day, as the sun rises and casts its feeble light through the barred windows, you enter that dingy room, your body already aching with weariness. The room buzzes with the anxious energy of countless others, all trapped in the same cycle, and you hear a voice on the speaker echoing through the space, signaling the beginning of another grueling day as a sweatshop worker. You stumble to your workstation, a cramped space where the clatter of machinery drowns out your thoughts, and the noise is isolating, a relentless droning that seems to taunt your sanity as you fall in line and join the sea of other workers, their eyes hollow, their faces etched with exhaustion. And the monotony of the assembly line becomes your reality, a repetitive dance of mechanical movements back and forth, filled with constant dangers ready to claim unsuspecting victims at any moment. But it's not just the physical toll that wears you down, it's the knowledge that your efforts yield nothing more than pennies for your family, and the promises of a better life just dangled before you are forever out of reach, as your weary body and shattered spirit are mere commodities exploited to fuel the insatiable hunger of profit. Any sign of fatigue is met with harsh retribution, leaving scars both seen and unseen. And as the day drags on, your mind grows foggy and your thoughts of survival start spinning. How much longer can you endure this? How much more can you take? And this is what we know. So y'all know about Shein, right?
This is Shein, the ultimate one-stop shop to affordable style.
On any given day in 2023, if you logged into the Shein website, you were immediately greeted with pop-ups to save 15% on your next purchase. You close the pop-up and you're immediately put face to face with even more savings. 15% off, 20% off, 25% off, free shipping and 15% off. And you scroll and you scroll. Bathing suits for $5, lingerie for $3, sequin-studded paces for less than $3. I mean, who can argue with that, right? Now, if you're not familiar with Shein, this can be information overload. The deals are constantly flashing like some kind of carnival marquee, like step right up to the f***ing circus of savings, non-stop pop-ups, buy something, get points for a discount on your next purchase. And you know, don't worry about FOMO. If you miss out on one item, Shein is kind of like a hydra. Cut off one deal's head and another 3 pop up in its place. I'm not kidding either. According to a few sources, roughly 6,000 brand new items pop up on Shein every single day. And you probably know all of these deals because of this.
So today we have another giant Shein haul.
I am back here again with another Shein haul.
I spent $600. We are doing a $600 Shein haul. Oh, hurry. Okay, bye.
Ah, yes, the Shein haul. If you know nothing about Shein, this is probably the one thing you're most likely to know. Young people unpacking endless boxes full of goodies. You know, there's a belt, there's a top, there's a dress, there's a... Oop.
And oop.
I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to show that yet. I will get to that later. But in virtually every video, the unboxing is followed by the clothes getting tried on.
Okay, y'all, so here are these jeans. These are cute, to be honest.
Same as the black one that I have, but it's in white.
Another spring/summer haul.
The test run gets followed by the comments on just how amazing the clothes are and how cheap they are.
Also, I do not condone shopping on Shein, but I am literally poor.
And then the comments are followed by the hashtags and the discount codes. It's all wash, rinse, repeat, right? There's something else that's a bit of a trend on all of these Shein haul videos, and that trend is happening right down in the comments. Question upon statement upon bitches getting dragged in the topic of how the hell can a $4 dress be in any way sustainable for us or the workers? And it's a common question with just about every e-commerce giant. But for Shein, it's just as much a part of their story as those questionable $6 shoes. Okay, yeah, girl, I saw them. But still, the comments don't seem to stop most people from shopping with Shein. In 2022, Shein was valued at a whopping $100 billion US dollars.
$100 billion. Gentlemen.
Let me put it this way. If your company is valued at over $1 billion, you're what's considered a unicorn company. Around 1,200 companies in the world are worth over $1 billion today, and guess where Shein is on that list? Number 3. Okay, bitch, she stay busy. Behind only ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, and Tesla, who wishes their guy didn't own Twitter. By that rationale, Shein is a gold-plated Pegasus. One woman once said about Shein, "How can I stand against Shein if I don't have anything to back it up?" Well, friends, that's the problem right there, isn't it? But fear not, Swoop is here. Here is a short list of things Shein has either been accused of or has been verified as actually doing. And let me see if I can get this all in one breath, okay? So, IP theft, racism, anti-Semitism, put unsafe amounts of lead and other chemicals on their products, made their employees work 75 or more hours a week with 1 day off per month, got hacked and then lied to the public about the extent of the breach, and so on and so on and so on. You see, behind the candy-coated carnival of the Shein website lies a very dark, very troubling, very mysterious story of a global icon who becomes more powerful with seemingly every controversy. Because every time someone tries to cut Shein down, they come back even stronger than they were before. So I thought it was time to get to the bottom of the beast that is Shein, Swoop style. So friends, buckle up for the most comprehensive deep dive imaginable. It is going to be disturbing. But first, oh hi there, hello, hi, it's my face again, Swoop! Swoop, 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 swoop. Hi, if you're seeing me for the first time, welcome. I make documentaries and short films on unsolved cases, true crime, and social media influencers who abuse their power and manipulate audiences because, as I always say, it's not drama, it's dangerous. We also dig deeper into the root psychology, and sometimes we take it to Petty University. Okay, we've got the uniform on today because, honey, y'all know Petty is my coping mechanism for the asshats. If you want to join the Petty University community, all are welcome. Come one, come all, and you can grab your exclusive Petty University apparel. The shop is linked below as always. And yes, I just want y'all to know that I am working on a new collection coming very soon. And you would know this how? If you're following me on Instagram. Are you following me on Instagram? Let's connect. That's where I post most often, Instagram stories, and I am trying to finally make it to 100,000 followers so I could be like a real influencer. Will you help me reach my goal? We can literally do it like overnight. So yes, thank you for that. Also, I want to give a quick hello to all of the new faces that are with us today after my Illuminaughtii documentary that I posted last week. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch it. It was a full one. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I will have that linked below as always. And ironically, I realized this Shein doc was something that I actually worked on months ago, long before the Illuminaughtii stuff, like it came crashing down. And ironically, I know that she too has covered this topic, but I would like to just go ahead and say, we're just gonna be a little more thorough, okay? That's just what we do here. Okay, real quick, and then we're gonna dive right in. A huge thank you to today's sponsor, Historic Mail. It is the cutest thing ever and a great Father's Day gift idea. You're going to love it. Okay, let me ask you a question. When is the last time that you received a personal letter? Or when is the last time that you sent a loved one a letter? Now, I'm not talking about email, but an actual in your hand letter. There's just something so special about receiving one, right? Which is why I absolutely fell in love with Historic Mail. Historic Mail is a thoughtful gift for yourself or a loved one who appreciates history and the lost art of letter writing. It was started by a group of history enthusiasts who relish the idea of getting letters from historical figures weekly, almost as if it's like directly from, you know, like Benjamin Franklin or like Thomas Edison's feathered pen straight to you. So every week a stamped envelope is delivered to you or your loved one's doorstep containing the reproduction of a letter penned by a famous historical figure, a document providing historical context so you get all the juicy gossip, and a typed version. I love this because you learn about the fascinating inner lives of the greatest historical figures. Now, the American History Gift Pack covers letters from 1776 with the founding of the Republic all the way to 1976, featuring letters from presidents such as George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, as well as other great historical figures. Like I got one of Walt Disney's letters. It is the coolest thing to me. Wait, hold on. Let me pull out my historic spectacles. Yes, this is verified. So this is a letter that Walt Disney wrote to President Nixon back when the Mickey Mouse Club had just started and Disney was trying to get Nixon to appear on the show. And here's a letter from President Roosevelt in 1901 that he wrote to his 3-year-old son. And he did the cutest little drawings on the back for his 3-year-old son. I mean, come on, this is adorable. And then maybe my favorite one is this hot, steamy letter. This is from Winston Churchill to his wife. Sweet cat, I kiss your vision as it rises before my mind. Come on, this is so cute. And the best part, once you sign up, you'll immediately get a beautiful printable certificate with your name and your recipient's name on it to make it even more personal and then have something very special that you can wrap for Father's Day as the letters start rolling in. So if you're like me and looking for the perfect timeless gift for history lovers and for a perfect surprise gift for Father's Day, go to historicmail.com/swoop to get your gifts and enjoy 10% off of all of their products with their amazing Father's Day sale. Treat yourself or your family. You deserve it, honey. Okay, back to the doc. So even after the intro, you might still be asking, what even is Shein? If you dig for an answer on Shein's website, you won't really find too much. They were founded in China. They have offices all over the world, from Singapore to Poland to Canada to the United States of America. They take part in a lot of events with a lot of favorite celebrities and influencers and appear to be quite the philanthropists. Nearly 7 million followers on TikTok, 28 million followers on Facebook, nearly 29 million followers on Instagram, the ghetto. I mean, for perspective, Amazon's Instagram only got 4 million followers, okay? Amazon, cash up. Back in May 2020, it was reported for the first time, and not the last time, that the Shein app had overtaken Amazon as the most commonly downloaded shopping app in all of the United States. And Jeff Bezos be pissing in his billion-dollar khakis right now, okay? And I know you're wearing khakis because I feel like that's the only pant that a billionaire wears, but what do I know? Now, remember how I said Shein updates its stock daily, like 6,000 plus times a day? Even in the world of fast fashion, that is a ridiculous number. Fast fashion, if you didn't know, is the idea of cheaper, more affordable versions of designer clothes and products. You know what it is, right? But did you know that it wasn't always this way? Well, I think it's time for a quick crash course. Back before the early 1900s, fashion was slow. It was painful. It took weeks, even months, to make one dress or one boot, let alone like an entire wardrobe. Like, imagine Tyra Banks trying to surmise down the runway in the 1800s, okay? She'd have died of old age before one of those boots got finished. But you know, at least none of those models would have been mentally abused by her totally awesome reality show.
I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
Allegedly. Tyra Doc coming soon, okay? I digress. So eventually the Industrial Revolution happened, and with the Industrial Revolution came the rise of technology like the sewing machine, and suddenly clothes became easier to make and quicker and cheaper, the magical word. Enter the dressmaking shop. A faster, more efficient way to get presumed high-quality garments to middle-class women, but these dresses weren't made by just one person or on some kind of automated assembly line or with 3D printing or, I don't know, by the grace of God. They were made by teams of garment workers, usually immigrant women working for pennies on the dollar, who were told to work as fast as possible, for as long as possible, for as cheaply as possible. These women worked 52 or more hours a week, 6 days a week, no overtime pay, and made like $7 a week. Yeah. Today, that's worth almost $200 a week. And that's wild. Like, if you think about it, if you work like 52 hours at Walmart in 2023, you will make a whole load more than that. Yeah. There's a name that you probably know that's associated with these kinds of exploitative garment warehouses. The sweatshop.
I get online, I start doing searches about Nike and sweatshops and labor practices, and what I found was if you wanted to pick a company that completely violates everything that Catholic social teaching is about, Nike would be your perfect case study. Now, here's something I didn't know the nuance of. The term sweatshop actually comes from the term sweater, which like isn't just something Alexander McQueen slayed at making. No, back then it referred to an employer who made you do hard, long, and tedious work for as little money as possible. To be in a sweatshop, Encyclopedia Britannica says that you need to follow certain criteria. Number 1, poverty level wages. Number 2, excessive labor hours. Number 3, unsafe workplace conditions. But in case you're thinking, hey, that kind of just sounds like my job at Amazon, what separates the Amazons of the world from sweatshops are the following. Quote, a mass of unskilled and unorganized laborers, often including children, and management systems that neglect the human factor of labor. And last but not least, a lack of accountability for poor working conditions. Now, in case you're wondering where I'm going with all of this, all I'll say right now is store that information in the back of your mind when we get back to Shein, because bitch, oh, ha. Anyways. All of these things were commonplace in the garment factories of the 1800s and 1900s in the United States, eventually culminating in a disaster that you may have heard of known as the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
I saw the people throwing them out. I hollered, come on, come over here, maybe the door will be open. But it took a long time before the door came open. But the firemen came in, picked us up, and they took us down. A couple of firemen took us. And when we got down, we couldn't get out because the bodies were right on the ground there. Maybe you heard about this in school, or maybe you heard about this on Bailey Sarian's Dark History episode when she did a video about it. Love her. But the short version is that 146 garment workers, almost all of whom were immigrant women, passed in a fire in 1911. It was horrifying and happened because of a combination of cost-cutting measures pulled off by the dirtbag owners who, I you not, called themselves the Shirtwaist Kings, which, you could just off to town, you bagel French toast. I'm sorry, it's just these workers deserved better. Now, the Shirtwaist Kings did some head king things like not fix broken elevators, locking all of the doors and windows to prevent theft, and not properly getting the building up to fire code, which meant that when a huge fire broke out, hundreds of women ran towards one exit, which was one of those doors that opens inwards, this way, not outwards. So hundreds of women piling against a door in panic that they can't even open because it has to come this way and fight against the crowd. It's truly tragic. Now, thankfully, a lot of what we know as the modern fire code in the US was made after the Triangle Shirtwaist tragedy, and slowly but surely sweatshops, at least allegedly, became a thing of the past in the US. But people have still wanted their clothes fast, easy, and cheap, and millionaire's gonna millionaire. So over the next century or so, clothing manufacturing started getting outsourced overseas to places where clothing could still be made for as cheap and fast as possible. And then by the early 2000s, the concept of what we truly know as fast fashion hit the scene with the introduction of places like Zara.
Zara, yeah, was one of the earliest adopters of the fast fashion model back in the 90s because they famously abandoned the old concept of fashion seasons where, you know, like certain looks are only available at certain times of the year for a more year-round cycle of releasing more and more products. Suddenly, the clothes didn't look as cheap as they cost, right? Like these were all really impressive designs inspired, quote unquote, by all of the biggest fashion players in the world, but made quickly, made cheaply, available for you at a fraction of the cost of high-end fashion. But low cost, as we know, came at a high cost. In 2011, the Brazilian government accused Zara and its parent company, Inditex, of using sweatshops so foul that they were literally compared to slave labor across 30 of its plants in Brazil. And to Zara's credit, they claimed to take immediate action because this was, quote, a serious breach in accordance with the Code of Conduct for External Manufacturers and Workshops of Inditex. And yeah, that seemed to work really well. You know, minus the whole Holocaust uniform, Melania don't care, thin models promoting curves instead of curvy models thing. You know, besides that, we'll leave that over there, Zara. Regardless of any of the controversies they've had over the years, Zara quickly became synonymous with affordable fashion, and where there is success, there is always imitation. H&M and Forever 21 and so many others popped up to imitate that Zara model. And since the manufacturing process was sent to countries with relatively, shall we say, relaxed labor laws, the profits in the fast fashion industry were astronomical. But you know what's better than fast fashion? Ultra fast fashion, naturally, feedly-dee, which is what we got in the following decades with companies like Fashion Nova and Boohoo, who use social media to reach out to their customers directly without the need for a physical retail space. These companies rely on user data, search traffic, and algorithms to get you what you want right when you want it. Yeah. And one of the most innovative companies doing that right now is Shein. So like I said earlier, Shein is worth $100 billion. That's nearly $250 million more than what a Zuckerberg is worth. Or like, you know, 250,000 times more of Jake Paul getting bodied to hell by the SEC for crypto scams. So why? Now, a positive take can be seen here where the watchdog group Public Eye claims that Shein's key reasons for success have been cited as direct delivery as opposed to expensive stores. You know, online tools used to identify trends quickly, AI-driven analysis of each customer's purchases and movements in the Shein app, a huge reliance on influencers, and, quote, a dense network of mostly small suppliers in the South Chinese city of Guangzhou, all of whom are linked to Shein's algorithmic software so they know which products are worth mass producing. Now, Shein's take is that their methodology is transformative, and like, not in the way that Prince's fashion and his tiny little fabulous booty cheeks were transformative. Yes, daddy. Now, think of it like this. If a normal fashion brand creates a couple hundred designs in-house in a good month, they're able to get thousands of each piece printed and shipped online and in physical stores. But Shein, they don't design things in-house. They work with outside designers who design and produce the clothing. So it starts with Shein's team seeing a design, they like the design, they place a small order of 100 to 200 pieces that get the Shein tag before the algorithm tracks how popular the design is online, which is when the warehouses immediately get to work producing more. If they post a design and it flops, it's immediately taken down, and the 100 to 200 pieces initially made either go on clearance or are recycled, allegedly. Then the clothing gets shipped to Shein's larger distro centers, sorted into packages, then shipped across the world to what Shein says is more than 150 countries. Oh, and this whole process only takes about 2 weeks. For clarity on just how wild this business model is, most clothing outlets send massive amounts of clothing in huge shipping containers and have to go go through customs and deal with, you know, international tax laws, blah, 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 blah. The point is Shein has cut out a lot of middle people. Like, let me put it like this. There's an expert in the global textile and apparel industry named Professor Shang Liu of the University of Delaware, who told Wired that in a very recent year-long period, Gap had 12,000 items on their website. H&M had 25,000, Zara had 35,000, Shein had 1.3 million. I'm sorry, I had to take it up a few octaves there because holy shite balls, wow. A marketing and research specialist named Nick Baklanov told Wired that Shein isn't just unusual for the size of their product, they're unusual because of their reliance on influencers. And yes, they've worked with some pretty big celebrities like Katy Perry.
Wow, that's an amazing intro from home.
Lil Nas X.
So my t-shirt is please wash your hands shirt. Shein.
Addison Rae. But their cash cow really seems to come from small to mid-sized influencers. One influencer even said that she made more money from her Shein haul videos in a couple of hours than some of her friends made in a week at their after-school jobs. And we see this happen with influencer after influencer after influencer. It is everywhere. But it doesn't just benefit the influencers. It gets Shein some pretty low-cost advertising, and teens make Shein the most talked about brand, period, with an extra T. Now, in order to better understand Shein, you'd think you should start with the person who created it. And in most stories, we dive deep into a quick summary of who that person is and where they came from and why they are the way they are.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
What makes the Shein story so weird is we know who created Shein, we know when he created it, and we know a lot of what he did. But the man who created Shein is kind of a total enigma. That man's name is Xu Yangtian, more famously known as Chris Xu, one of the most mysterious billionaires on earth and certified fast fashion kingpin. And you know what, real quick, y'all, I want to give a huge shout out to Mimi Chen, a creator on TikTok. She speaks Chinese fluently, and I did not want to just come on here and butcher these names without even like trying to learn how to pronounce them, and she walked me through the pronunciation. It is very nuanced, and I know my accent is still gonna make it sound a little funny, but just huge shout out for her taking the time to help me with the pronunciations. Okay, so according to The Guardian back in July 2022, there are only 2 public anecdotes about Chris that people share about the type of person he is. Now, the positive one allegedly pops up a lot in Chinese media outlets and on Chinese social media. An anonymous worker says that he visited Shein's headquarters and claimed that, quote, no matter when you go, even if it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you can find Xu Yangtian and his team always in meetings, never lazy, and always trying to learn all the good things about you, end quote. But the other anecdote, well, okay, so have you ever seen The Social Network? Think that meets Game of Thrones, okay? Just like complete shiteball bloodshed, only in a corporate sense. And I'll get back to that anecdote in a second. But Chris Xu is not only one of China's richest men, he's just one of like the richest men, ranked 174th in the world and worth over $10 billion himself, or 25,000 Jake Paul crypto scan fines. Yes, friends, I am petty, and I like to remind people that Jake Paul was charged by the SEC for crypto scams. But yet, this incredibly wealthy public figure, Chris Xu, is one of the most mysterious private men alive, sadly unlike Jake Paul. Now, that negative anecdote I hinted earlier about Chris Xu, by the way, is that Chris is such a heartless bastard. He founded an e-commerce company with his 2 closest friends, ghosted them, stole the company's money, and, quote, kicked his friends out of the game before using that money to found Shein. True or false? Let's find out. Here's everything I know about Chris Shu. Some sources say he was born in 1984, and since Forbes says he's 39 years old, 1984 checks out. The Guardian says that Chinese media outlets describe him as an average student who came from poverty, working to support himself in college, where he developed a very special skill set in SEO, or like search engine optimization.
Search engine optimization.
A lot of this comes courtesy of an article Wired wrote about Chris's earliest business associates. So a huge shout out to Wired for this. In 2008, a man named Wang Xiaohu was working with Chris at another job when the two of them realized they could start a company themselves. And in 2008, they started a cross-border e-commerce business. Wang was the guy in charge of developing the business and tracking the finances, and Chris handled the technical stuff like the SEO. That same year, though, Chris was at an online marketing conference in Nanjing when he saw another man named Li Peng do a panel on online marketing. Whatever Li said rocked Chris's shit completely, okay? And since Li liked Chris's pitch, he partnered up with Chris and Wang. And later that year, their company became official, Nanjing Dianwei Information Technology, with Wang Xiaohu holding an equal share to Chris and Li Peng as consultant with a 10% stake. Nanjing Dianwei, as I'm sure you might have guessed by them dabbling in e-commerce, didn't really have a focused item to sell. They kind of just, like threw shit at the wall and tried to see what stuck, okay? Kind of like my dating life. Mobile phones, let's sell them. Cooking wares, hey girl, teapots, what the fuck? Okay, yeah, sure, I guess. But where the biggest change to their model came is when Chris and his boys started selling clothing. Shein responded to the article saying basically Wang and Li are full of blah, 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 But according to Wang and Li, these three budding entrepreneurs had this idea to basically flip the entire sweatshop model America had been using for a century on its head. If America could hire Chinese workers to make cheap clothes for customers overseas, what would stop Chinese companies from doing the same? Li told Wired, quote, "We were going for low margins and low quantities. To put that simply, low cost, big profits." Yeah. Li said Chris always focused as he listened, learned very quickly on how to run a business. I don't think he ever expected just how good Chris would get at all of the aspects of running a business. All of the good, and how that good also got very bad and then very ugly. Nanjing Dianwei had been in business for over a year when Wang showed up to work one morning and found Chris missing. Soon, he realized that virtually every password-protected computer had its passwords changed. Wang told Wired that he immediately tried calling and texting Chris countless times, but never got a response. Can you imagine? Soon, Wang became worried. I mean, I would imagine it was very soon. Chris had mysteriously vanished and nobody seemed to know where he went. But eventually, Wang realized it was worse than he thought. Chris had control of all of the PayPal accounts Nanjing Dianwei used to handle international money. So Wang hits Li up and he's like, "Our boy dipped, okay, what now?" And Li told Wang there wasn't really anything they could do immediately. Soon the two of them paid out the rest of the company and let them all go, and everybody just kind of went their separate ways. Now, no matter who's telling the truth in this story, the fact is, this is all pretty indicative of the type of business model Shein is famous for. Christopher. Now, Wang and Li allege that they never spoke to Chris ever again after he ghosted their asses. And to Li's credit, he's like, good riddance, brother. That's actually just really damn sad. Like, I hope Chris got better and started treating his people better, but judging by where we are going in this story later, I highly doubt it. Over the next couple of years, Chris tinkered and tailored and soldiered and spied and eventually found a website called sheinside.com. If the name sounds familiar, that's because a few years later, that company would become Shein. But before that, Sheinside referred to itself as a leading worldwide wedding dresses company, even though it sold a lot of non-wedding apparel as well. The following year, Chris registered a company called Nanjing Dianshang Information Technology. They scored a $47 million investment that year, changed their name to Shein, and moved from Nanjing to Guangzhou to be closer to its suppliers. So in addition to that, they also very quietly opened a US headquarters in LA County and acquired the company Romwe. Y'all know that name? Fun fact about Romwe, their origins are equally as mysterious as Shein's, but multiple sources have claimed that the founders of Romwe were a boyfriend-girlfriend power couple. Like, slay, bitch, yes. But oopsie, that power couple broke up and the guy left the company shortly before the girlfriend sold the company to Shein. And you know who that boyfriend was? F***ing Lee Pang Lee from earlier in this story when 3 guys with Chris and he goes on that Lee. Yeah, what in the holy Michael B. Jordan on toast is happening, okay? The Social Network, oh my gosh. Y'all, I promise you today's one of those docs where the frizzier my hair gets, the more menacing and absurd this story gets. So just keep an eye. Now, it's important to note that from this point on, the Chris Shu story hits a dead end. Since 2019 or so, Chris has become even more mysterious, slowly removing himself from Shein as well as from the role of CEO. Nobody knows why. I thought this was all really interesting to talk about because in many ways, Shein is Chris Shu. Fast-paced, reliant on SEO, mysterious, exploitative, ruthless, public enough to be one of the richest men and companies on earth, private enough that we know next to nothing about why. In 2020, like a lot of other industries, the garment and apparel industry was decimated because of the pandemic.
Macy's is closing all stores nationwide.
Stores shut in late March. Like Superdry, Marc Jacobs, and La Senza of closing some of those stores.
Sales were down, production was down, promotion was down. It was a bad time to be in the apparel industry in general. That is, unless you were Shein. In 2020, Shein raked in an absolutely mind-blowing $10 billion in sales. Like, how the f***, Christopher, how'd you do it? Now, the answer has been marketing. Significant deals made with Facebook, Google, and TikTok. Huge influencer deals. I mean, they even had a reality show with Khloe Kardashian. At a time when everybody was locked up at home, Shein made it so that you couldn't ignore them even if you tried. There's 2 pretty big reasons Shein blew up the way they did. The first, according to Bloomberg, is China itself. I don't mean China manufactured Shein out of thin air. To be honest, China doesn't really seem to with Shein, but no, in particular, it all has to do with a trade war between China and the United States. Okay, no, don't get back here. Don't leave me yet. Okay, I'm sorry, girl. I wouldn't bore you with a weird ass geopolitical trade drama like that. Don't worry. But this is important. It'll be very brief. There was a change relatively recently that was made to China's tax code. In 2018, China and the US were fighting like Jake Paul and the SEC. Okay, sorry, I'll stop making Jake Paul jokes, okay? Maybe, allegedly. But in 2018, China and the US were in a bit of a tiff, if you will. The US imposed stricter tariffs or taxes on China's exports, so China waived export taxes altogether for any direct-to-consumer companies. And according to Bloomberg, this put Shein in a damn good position. Damn, girl, okay, things are looking good for you. In America, any packages worth less than $800 can enter the country without paying a duty or import tax. No taxes in, no taxes out, and even when the Trump administration imposed tariffs that made Chinese products more expensive, the small value shipment exemption remained, meaning Shein was able to send their super inexpensive packages from China to the US, no questions asked. Whew, okay, you still with me? Okay, here's the deal. Under these tax laws, Shein's sales doubled between 2018 and 2019, according to the fine folks at Bloomberg. Even today, Shein doesn't pay export taxes on any of their products, and at least in the US, they pay no import taxes either. But hey, you're probably wondering, how does Shein do it? I mean, we all know the boring tax loophole thing, but how do they actually do it? Swoop, how do they do it? Brace yourselves, friends. Things are about to get very dark. By mid-2020, one of the biggest questions people still had about Shein was how the hell are they able to keep these prices so low? To which the advocacy group Public Eye responded. They started off by contacting an organization known for defending workers' rights in South China, who they couldn't name in the report for security purposes. Now, the two researchers went to Nankun village, where a few dozen workshops were located within a block. As they explored the production sites, they were greeted by like very narrow hallways blocked by massive bags of clothing and just like rolls of fabric, which was a huge fire hazard in case there were any kind of emergency, especially since the researchers claimed that they saw bars on windows and doors and didn't see a single emergency exit. In one of the companies, the anonymous researchers secured interviews with 3 employees. Each of them was asked how many hours they worked per day, and they answered very similarly, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the morning, then another shift from 1:30 p.m. to 5:45 p.m., and then another shift in the evening from 7 p.m. to 10 or 10:30 p.m. Now, for those of you who are like me and are just kind of bad at math, let me see. Okay, that's, yep, carry the 1 divided by, yeah, that's almost 12 full hours of work spread across a 14.5-hour block. That's a lot. But it gets worse because they work these shifts every single day, every single week, with only 1 day off per month. One day per month off. That's around 75 work hours per week. Now, I am not admittedly too familiar with Chinese labor laws, but I'm pretty sure it's the same as it was in 2020 when this report came out, because back in 2020, a work week was like an American work week, 40 hours maximum, unless, you know, you're in the film production industry or a YouTuber, then, you know, good luck. Sleep. Who is she? Never met her, allegedly. But in this instance, the workers are required to have at least 1 day off per week, not per month. When Public Eye's researchers expressed shock at this, one of them said in a good month, he pulls in 10,000 yuan, which in 2023 US dollars is about $1,400 per month, in a good month, after working 75 hours per week, with 1 day off that month. And it's like, what does he even mean by a good month? Well, each worker is paid per item of clothing. The more complicated the item, the more that, you know, they get paid. And like, none of the workers even see a problem with this, because at least one worker told Public Eye, quote, "Factories like these do not have to issue contracts." Public Eye states that it's true that similar workshops wouldn't have contracts, but some of these factories had over 100 employees, and by Chinese law, these companies would be required to not only provide contracts to employees, but give them a copy of it as well. So if what these workers were saying is true, then it would be a massive, massive problem for a company of Shein's size. After building the report, Public Eye emailed Shein a copy and almost immediately received a response of an automated message. "The Shein sustainability team has received your suggestions and feedback, and we will follow up on related matters as soon as possible. Thank you." A few days later, they sent a letter again and got the same response. Public Eye also sent their report to numerous major media outlets, who also reached out to Shein for comment. As soon as that happened, Shein responded to Public Eye right away. Funny how that works. Unfortunately, that response may as well have been automated too, since the person who responded wrote, quote, "Shein has no comment at this time as we await a copy of the report and an opportunity to review. We take all supply chain matters seriously and look forward to hearing back." It just felt like it needed to be read in that voice. At a certain point, it's like no response would have been better than that response. No matter how you paint it, this doesn't look good for Shein and good old Chris. News reported the violations and the report, and finally, nothing nothing happened. Shein continued to grow from the $10 billion they made in 2020 to $15 billion in 2021 before doubling to a mind-boggling $30 billion in 2022. No changes, no accountability. We love to see it. Just a report from Public Eye after half a year of undercover work and nothing. Everybody went on with their lives. More sales, more Shein hauls, more... No, we're not ready for that yet. Okay, you know, a girl, she gotta stretch, limber up, do some Kegels to get ready for all of that shit. Anyways, the bombshell made no difference on Shein's bottom line, to the point that people seem to have forgotten all about it by August 2021 when another bombshell report came, this time from Reuters. More than a year after the Public Eye report came out, it was announced that Shein hadn't made public disclosures about its working conditions in the UK. And maybe you're asking, why would that even be a big deal? Well, two reasons. Number one, there's a little law in Britain that was passed in 2015 called the Modern Slavery Act. This law has a lot of requirements, but the big thing is that companies are now required by law to make an annual statement every year of what they are doing and can do to prevent the exploitation of their workers. Specifically, quote, to ensure slavery and human trafficking are absent from their operations and supply chains. Now, this applies to any company that sells more than 36 million pounds or nearly 45 million US dollars worth of goods. And again, this list needs to be publicly available, which leads me to number two. Guess what the problem was? If you guessed, Shein lied on its website that its factories were certified by international labor organizations, then ding, 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 you very clever human. It's probably not your first class at Petty University. I applaud you. Shein's social responsibility page claimed that it never ever uses child or forced labor, but did not provide the disclosures British law requires them to make. And fun fact, the UK isn't the only place that has a modern slavery law. Australia, hi Australia, you looking so cute today. They also have a similar law for companies who pull in over 100 million AUD or nearly 67 million USD. And guess where Shein also didn't provide that statement? Now, when this made the news, Shein very quietly made this statement available on their UK site, though I still can't find one on their Australian site. But, quote, the following statement has been prepared in the fulfillment of any obligation, blah, 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 words, skip to the end. Shein recognizes the importance of supply chain transparency and as an organization is committed to addressing issues related to modern slavery, forced labor, and human tea. Right. I don't even know what this statement is saying. Like, there are words placed next to each other in a row on a screen, but like, is it saying anything? Jessica, does this shit mean anything to you? Bethany? Okay, Bethany, do you know what they're saying here? I mean, Shein must be done with exploiting alleged slave labor, right? Right? Yeah, the hits keep coming for Shein, don't they? In 2022, Channel 4 out of the UK released a documentary that, if I am being completely honest, just confirmed a lot of what Public Eye had already confirmed back in 2020. There were two key distinctions between then and now, though. Number one, this was the first visual proof of Shein's inhumane working conditions. And number two, this happened after the Modern Slavery Act controversy. Like, Shein, baby doll, what the fuck? Now, this documentary went a few steps beyond, though, revealing that factory workers were forced to work 18 hours a day, some of which were making as little as 3 pence a day. If that sounds pathetic, it is. That's roughly 3 US pennies per day in modern day. Most of these workers only had 2 to 3 days off per month. I mean, some of the women used their lunch breaks to wash their hair.
After an 18-hour day, this woman made £19.
roughly equivalent to 3 of Fern's underwear sets as sold by Shein.
Just like the Public Eye report, Channel 4 captured piles of clothes blocking hallways. People were hunched over sewing machines for over 10 hours at a time, and endlessly effed up working conditions. Once again, the conditions made international news as people discussed whether or not Shein had committed monstrous crimes against humanity or not. I mean, you know, the kind of conversations you want people having about your company. This time, though, Shein actually decided to do something and investigate it themselves. What they found, what Shein found, was enough for them to admit that employees at 2 of their sites were definitely working far longer hours than they should have been by law. They pledged to spend $15 million to improve the standards at these facilities and cut some of the orders down to ensure workers can make their quotas. They claim that this plan would help not only these factories, but hundreds of other factories receive the necessary improvements. However, Shein denied all other allegations relating to lower wages, withheld salaries, and workers being paid 3 pennies per product. They even went as far as to claim that these factories paid their workers more than other Shein factories. If Shein is saying that our workers are paid fairly, which they are not, let's be clear, and their hours are now getting cut, doesn't that make the problem worse though? I mean, I don't know, man. And fun fact, this news actually broke shortly after Shein sold hundreds of products on Black Friday 2022 for 1 pence per product. Penny products as a result of penny wages, allegedly. Before we move on, I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room. No, not that one. That's just my new bestie, Ellie. Okay, there will be no Ellie slander in this house. Oh, sorry. I'm talking about a couple of the most popular conspiracy theories about Shein you've probably seen all over TikTok.
OMG, there is hidden messages in their labels asking for help.
In 2022, TikToks like these popped up left and right, claiming that Shein's workers were sneaking messages into the tags of the clothes you ordered, saying like, need your help or help me, written in countless products. These videos, taken at face value, are scary as hell. I mean, if I was like wearing a dress from Shein right now and like looked at the tag and saw help me on it, bitch, what? Bitch, where? Bitch, who? Call the National Guard!
Indeed, Rochelle, a viral video on TikTok is behind these claims, alleging that Shein employees are crying out for help via hidden messages on its clothing labels, starting off with this message right here of a help me please message on a slip of paper.
But these aren't true. Or to be more specific, there's no evidence whatsoever that Shein workers are doing this. One of the most popular examples of this legend is a receipt that had the words "help me" written on it. Scary, right? No, 2 things though. First, that's not a Shein receipt. That's a Romwe receipt. And you can see that in the picture, but maybe you're saying, Swoop, Shein owns Romwe. Excellent memory, class. You are 100% correct. You've been studying. Professor Petty is very pleased. You know what else Romwe sells? A bookmark called the Help Me bookmark. Here is a statement from Romwe. Can we look at the bottom where it says no child labor? And it's like in a stamp font, just like stamp. Like, can you imagine if they just have like an actual stamp and just go around stamping everything they see? No child labor for you, none for you, and none for you. I'm sorry, that just was really amusing to me. Okay, but I digress. Now, the rest of these conspiracy theory posts are either elaborate fakes or misattributed from other sources. And speaking of TikTok, this next one is kind of a little bit trickier to talk about. So there's a long-standing rumor all over TikTok that Shein, on top of using forced labor, relies on child labor, which I'll have to abbreviate as CL. These claims pop up all over Shein haul videos and are repeated often, usually as fact. Fortunately, this may actually be one of the sketchy things that Shein doesn't do, at least according to the available information. The website France24 ran a story that aimed to debunk these allegations, which was followed up with Shein releasing their own TikTok that directly disputes the allegations. Now, does Shein use CL? I can't say for sure, but you be the judge.
Need your help tag. They admitted that this was a poorly worded recorded label asking customers for help in keeping their fabric soft by using a softer detergent. And here you can see, need your help washing with the soft detergent at the first time. So once again, another label that can be easily mistaken, giving these allegations for show.
But look, y'all, the reason I bring all of this up is because I'm not even close to being through with Shein. Like, they've done a lot of so much, in fact, that we don't need to make anything up or repeat things that we don't have any concrete evidence of. Because it's not just forced labor that Shein's taken part in. Oh no, Shein is an overachiever. They have a staggering number of controversies that would downright destroy any other company. Controversies like back in 2018, Shein wasn't the juggernaut they are today, but as we've gone over before, they were still a pretty big deal used by millions of people across the planet, which made it an even bigger deal when they informed their customers that, oh, hey guys, sorry about this, but hackers got us bad. Ha ha ha, your personal info compromised. But don't worry, it only affected 6.42 million of you. Teehee, XOXO, gossip girl. 6.5 million people's emails and passwords were affected. Now, if your card info was saved on the site, that's potentially 6.5 million credit cards at risk. It was accomplished through a cyber attack that ended up like just had taken Shein out. Thankfully, by August of that year, the problem was completely solved. Allegedly. Or was it? Because in 2023, some pretty interesting information came to light that changed the story altogether. The New York Attorney General's office, it turns out, did a years-long investigation of their own into the incident. They discovered some good news and some very bad news. The good news is that it wasn't actually 6.5 million people affected, okay? Whew, controversy averted. Except, oh wait, no. It's worse. The bad news? It was actually 39 million people affected. Yes, I have to enunciate it that way. So let's sit with that for a second, especially since only 6.5 million people received an email informing them of the breach. That means over 32 million people had their shit hacked, and Shein just kind of like, just swept it under that rug. Whew, okay, well, I didn't see it. Did you see it? I don't know. Like, just to put it into perspective, do you know how many people 32 million people is? That is the populations of New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, Philadelphia, San Antonio, San Diego, Dallas, San Jose, Austin, Jacksonville, Fort Worth, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Charlotte, San Francisco, Seattle, and Denver combined. It should come as no surprise that Zootrop, the firm that owns Shein and Romwe, was fined $1.9 million for failing to properly handle this incident, which that just sounds like just like a little slap on the wrist. 1.9 million. That's nothing to you. The data breach is a big deal, obviously, but I wanted to start y'all off with something fast and easy before I get to the worst shit Shein has pulled. Yes, Michelle, it gets worse. Because Alfie, are you listening to me? Alfie, yes, it's coming. It's gonna, yeah, okay, prepare yourself. For example, the many allegations of straight up design theft levied against them from the largest corporations to the smallest independent designers. Now, allegations of copyright infringement are like nothing new in the fast fashion industry. It's fast fashion, and retailers are constantly struggling to find ways to keep up in one of the most intense breakneck industries on earth. But even among all of their rivals, Shein stands out with the sheer number of lawsuits and allegations thrown their way. According to the Wall Street Journal, they've been named as a defendant in nearly 10 times as many lawsuits as those against H&M. So here's a few examples of people who have sued Shein. So in January 2022, Nirvana LLC, as in the company that owns freaking Nirvana. The band sued Shein for using the band's artwork without permission. Airwalk International, the company who makes Doc Marten boots, sued Shein for selling Marten boots, as well as a whopping 20 other similar shoes. This was really similar to a 2018 lawsuit where Levi Strauss sued Shein for copying the Levi Arcuate stitching pattern that you see on their back pockets, where they own the trademark on it. Also similar, Shein was sued by Ralph Lauren for just straight up copying the Ralph Lauren polo player logo. And if that was all Shein did, then we would finally move on to, oh wait, no, hold on a second with that one. We're still, yeah, we're not ready for that one. Where Shein's blatant design theft gets insidious is when you start to look into the countless independent artists the company has stolen from. Like Alora Poutrat, a digital artist from Edinburgh who received a message from a fan one day alerting her to the presence of one of her designs being used on a computer mouse pad. I mean, Alora was quite confused about all of this. She had never given Shein permission to use her art. In fact, she'd never even talked to Shein before at all. So she sent them a very stern email requesting they remove the product and receiving nothing from Shein. So she turned to social media. The statement went viral, and then Shein decided to respond. Now, to Shein's credit, they apologized and removed the product and compensated Alora for the sales that had already gone through. Okay, all right, Shein, you know what? Okay, you effed up, owned up to it, and compensated the artist. Not bad, I guess, is what I would have said if Shein didn't proceed to do this 10 more times to the same artist. Ever since that first incident, Alora has written Shein's team each time this happens, and every time she calls them out on social media, and every time the product gets taken down, and a few months later, the process starts all over again. The most recent time we know about was back in January of 2022. By that point, Alora was exhausted, and you know what? I am exhausted for you. Now, another independent company that Shein ripped off is Lexier, a Black-owned fashion brand whose Amelia top is a crochet sweater that's handmade in Nigeria. And because it's handmade and imported, it costs $330. Shein took the design, mass-produced it, and sold it for $17. Kike, an LA-based earring brand, had its designs used by Shein without consent. Shein used one of Portland-based photographer Leah Flores's photos on a $10 tapestry, and when Leah explored the website, she found 7 other photos used without permission, so she sued and got a $40,000 settlement. And I shit you not, a couple days after receiving her first settlement check, she found 4 more photos on both Shein and Romwe. She sued again, and this time received what Leah refers to as a substantial settlement. However, that's only for the artists that can even afford to sue Shein. Because if you prowl social media and look up, hashtags like hashtag shame on Shein or hashtag Shein theft, you'll find countless artists that are just completely at a loss, just trying to be heard at all. The Guardian found dozens of people saying their designs were stolen, with one illustrator saying that Shein stole my art and slapped it on a phone case. Not sure if I should be flattered or mad. And another said that she spent hours creating new and fresh designs, but felt a little bit of a sick feeling when someone thought that her frog artwork had been used on stickers Shein was selling. What makes it even weirder is when the IP theft is of material that isn't even publicly available. Like when musician Katie Bailey found a t-shirt of her band Southbound 17 that had been sold by Shein for months at a $9 price point.
Shein has been stealing my band's merch and profiting off of it for the past 4 months. So that means that they have sold well over 100 shirts to people.
Bootleg tees are common everywhere and have been, as long as bands have been selling merch. What made this situation bizarre is that Southbound 17 hadn't even started selling their own shirts yet. Apparently, when Katie sent the design to the supplier, somebody allegedly leaked the design to Shein without permission. Shein responded to Katie, apologizing and removing the design from their website, and then 1 month later, it popped up with a slight changes onto Romwe. At this point, Katie was like too upset to reach out again. The shirt eventually sold out on Romwe and she dropped the issue altogether. This entire video could all be about this one controversy. Shein has a design theft problem. Shein has a labor problem. You know, it's like 99 problems and this bitch got all of them, and I'm still nowhere near being done. Yeah, so let's finally talk about this because that's a thing that happened. And you know what? Honestly, in order for me to get through this without punching Shein directly in the balls, let's just take this whole section to Petty University, okay? So roll the intro. Back in July 2020, @HereForTheT2 on Instagram shared a post of the hottest new product available on Shein, a necklace with a swastika available for as low as $2.50. I'm not sure I need to explain why this is a problem, but Shein at first apparently didn't know that Nazis are a problem. The internet, however, did. Now, you might remember the outrage from Twitter, and some tried to rationalize the product, pointing out that, you know, historically, the swastika, which I am sure I can't say a bunch of times here, so we will call it the swas, and no, I am not referring to a contraction of the words sweat and ass, though I might as well be because it's just as nasty. But some were arguing that the swas comes from religions like Buddhism and Hinduism and was originally intended as a sort of symbol of peace. Everybody else correctly pointed out that that's kind of a crock of It's 2020, girl. Even if that was the original meaning, it is long since changed globally since like forever ago. Kind of the same with the meaning incel, okay? If you've seen my other stuff, you know what I'm talking about. And if you, for whatever reason, don't know what this swas symbol is, it was a symbol representative of the asshole, I mean the Nazi party of the 1930s and 40s, and is widely considered a hate symbol. Quote, "This is actively threatening to the Jewish community," read one tweet. Quote, "Do not let Shein get away with this," end quote. Once again, Shein apologized and tried to rationalize it as being a Buddhist swas. And I especially like their super sad face emoji crying a single tear. Boo-hoo. But you know, all is well because, you know, they promised to create a committee to review products so nothing like this would happen again. Motherfucking this fucking dumbass company bull one leak later and then a fringe trim carpet. Bitch, that's a Muslim prayer mat covered in illustrations of the Kaaba, which is one of Islam's most sacred sites. Way to go, Shein. Your committee's really doing a stellar job. Class dismissed. When does it end, Shein? When does it end? What you're looking at was on the Shein website not even a year after the swas and the prayer rug. That's a phone case with a handcuffed black person being outlined in chalk with what I assume to be a white police officer's hand. For $1.50, what a fucking bargain. When Shein was once again called out for this, they defended the phone case as having been created in reaction to the 2014 murder of Michael Brown to show support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Are you actually stupid, Shein? Are you I'm just like, what in the whole grain, sugar-free, carb-free, acai banana bowl with a side of do you think that you are doing, Shein? Did you really think that we were going to believe that the cartoon image of an 18-year-old black kid who is no longer here, outlined in death chalk, printed on a phone case, was showing support for black people? Are we really doing this? People on social media weren't into Shein's explanation. Clearly neither am I, and told them their response was unacceptable. And in an interesting full circle twist, Shein revealed they never actually got permission from the artist to use that design. Shocking! It turns out the design was created by French artist Jean Julien, who did indeed draw this back in 2014 after what happened to Michael Brown. When this was pointed out to Jean, he asked Shein to donate all small profits to the BLM movement. It's not clear if they did, though. Shocking. They probably did not. But once again, they apologized and ended their apology by saying, "We vow to do a much better job in educating ourselves." The number of times that people are just out here educating themselves. Now, I have some thoughts about whether Shein has learned their lessons, but instead of directly telling you my thoughts, I want to tell you a story I read in the Wired article I mentioned earlier. The author of that piece said that on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 2022, Shein sent customers a push notification with 3 raised fist emojis in various shades of brown. It was shared with text that said, "I had a dream that everyone of all shapes, sizes, and colors can access fashion." I'm so glad that Dr. King's earth-changing dream speech is being used to sell shitty clothing. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. On October 1st, 2021, CBC Marketplace, a Canadian website, released a report that began with the following sentence, quote, "Out of 38 products ordered from fast fashion giants, CBC Marketplace found 1 in 5 items had elevated levels of chemicals, including lead, phthalates, and PFAS," end quote. Care to guess who one of those companies was? If you guess Shein, damn girl, okay, you on fire today, because researchers found that a jacket made for toddlers, you know, the like baby humans, purchased from Shein had way more lead in it than is allegedly acceptable for children. Fetally D. That's bad. But okay, so how much lead are we talking here? Oh, I see. The jacket had 20 times the amount of lead acceptable for exposure to those tiny baby humans. And a red purse that the organization bought off of Shein, 5 times the amount of lead acceptable for adults. The researcher at the head of this put it best, quote,
"I think this trench coat is hazardous waste.
The level of lead is almost 20 times higher than what's allowed in kids' products. This is Health Canada's limit for lead in children's products. Our little red purse is 5 times more than that limit."
The harm will continue over time, and particularly as this little red purse deteriorates. But let's think even broader. So somebody made this little red purse.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? It's
leaving
just
a little trail of lead everywhere it goes.
Exactly.
Lead, if you don't know, is a natural substance that we can find just about everywhere in the environment. Like, it's still available in small amounts in some products that we have in our houses today. But when we realized how bad lead was for the human body, we found alternatives. It used to be common in gasoline, for instance, in case you've ever wondered why it's called unleaded fuel. Now, if you don't know why it's a big deal that a child's jacket has 20 times the amount of lead in it, exposure to lead can, to put it simply, kill you. It damages the brain, heart, kidneys, and reproductive bits. In response, Shein removed the purse and the jacket and blah, 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 bitch, it's not enough. It's kind of the same song and dance with Shein every time. We'll do better, they say, as they proceed to do worse every single time. I'm just kind of so tired of Shein. But you know, let's just say for a second the lead thing doesn't tickle your fancy. Let's say you didn't think any of this was a big deal. You know what is? Shein's newest controversy. Allegations that their products are made not out of forced labor, but from cotton provided by literal slave labor. In 2022, the website Bloomberg was investigating rumors that Shein's garments were made out of cotton sourced from alleged slave labor in China's Xinjiang region. This was something activists and human rights groups had been sounding the alarm on for years, but Bloomberg decided to finally put it to the test and sent 2 batches of garments from Shein to a laboratory in Germany for analysis. Now, if science feels more like magic and less like something you can easily understand and explain, okay, girl same. All right, so the next few sentences have a few terms that I will admit I had to Google, okay? Professor Petty is a learned bitch, but I ain't got no biology PhD. Wait, is that even a thing? Anyways, the German lab tested these garments using isotope analysis, which basically tests levels of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen within cotton fibers to figure out the altitude and other climate characteristics to figure out the region the cotton was grown in. Okay, yeah, magic. What they found was that the cotton in each batch, without a doubt, was sourced from the Xinjiang region. Now, why is this a problem? What's the deal with the Xinjiang region? The answer lies in one of the biggest ongoing controversies surrounding China at the current moment. The allegations that the Chinese government has placed more than 1 million people into detention camps and are either forcing them or coercing them into non-stop forced labor. The US government believes that all products from Xinjiang are the result of, quote, detainee or prison labor and situations of forced labor coming from intimidation and threats, withholding of wages, and abusive living and working conditions. The people that are said to be in these camps are the Uyghurs, a Turkic ethnic group that is indigenous to the Xinjiang region. Mostly Uyghur people are Muslim, and according to the United Nations, the Chinese treatment of the Uyghur people constitutes crimes against humanity. Their report cited interviews with former detainees and also featured allegations of torture, cultural prosecution, and forced labor. If you've ever heard the term Uyghur genocide, this is what that's referring to. To be clear, China firmly denies the forced labor allegations, saying that they're a, quote, huge lie made up by anti-forces to smear the country. And recent articles from Chinese state media claims that more than 80% of the recent cotton harvesting in the area is done by machines. Is it true? Or is it propaganda? You tell me.
The government has long denied it's running detention camps for Uyghurs, insisting instead they are vocational schools.
But more than any other situation Shein's put themselves in, this is probably the most backed against the wall that they've ever been. When faced with Bloomberg's allegations, they didn't dispute the test results or even say whether they used cotton from Xinjiang, which from a business perspective is the only answer they could have given. If they admit their cotton comes from a place allegedly housing 1 million enslaved Uyghurs, they alienate the US customers. But if they dispute it, it pisses off their homeland. That means that for once, Shein can't just apologize and move on. This is a huge and honestly ongoing problem for them. So where does this leave us with Shein? Well, back in September 2022, they announced some plans to be a bit more transparent with the public in light of their many, many labor controversies. They promised to start a social media campaign to give people an inside look at their pledge to be better with labor, sustainability, and product safety. As time goes on, Shein is expanding just as quickly, cheaply, and aggressively as they put their clothes together in the first place, with a distribution center in Whitestown, Indiana, that is projected to have nearly 1,400 employees by 2025, and a pair of new Los Angeles centers to open over the course of the year and next. They've opened a warehouse in Toronto and are planning one more for Portland as well. They have offices in Washington, D.C., and even hired their own lobbyists as the company looks to practice what they preach in regards to improving their labor problems. Now, part of this big pivot into Americanizing the company could be a result of something happening in America. In January 2022, the US Congress introduced the Import Security and Fairness Act, which, if it gets signed into law, would eliminate the tax exemption for packages from China worth less than $800, meaning Shein would suddenly pay a hell of a lot more in taxes than they currently do. Even with this sudden pivot into the American economy, Shein's gonna Shein, with reports that several employees at the US distribution centers have expressed their discomfort with the employees' labor practices. One employee in the US actually said that her job with Shein was like remote and easy as heck, but told Wired that Shein often cut corners in the design and safety of its products, claiming she personally witnessed children's clothing that didn't meet safety standards set by the US Consumer Product Safety Commission. So she told her bosses, who never responded. I high-key bet she grew up to be this hero.
Your hat
Is this your secret to staying warm?
No.
No, it isn't.
I have no secrets. I'm mad, I have to go to work, I have to earn a living. I'd rather have a private income and get laid, well and often.
Now, in December 2022, the Wall Street Journal announced that Shein is looking to expand beyond their current business model into more of like an Amazon-type marketplace platform that allows other merchants to sell stuff to each other. Even if we give Shein the benefit of the doubt and believe that they're really trying to get better, history has proven that time and again, they'll find a way to just F everyone over. Something like this could be a huge risk for Shein though, and any day now, another startup could pop up and snatch that crown, you know, maybe like a startup who placed a massive Super Bowl ad, a company who recently reached out to me for a sponsorship, a company like
I feel like a billionaire. I'm shopping like a billionaire.
Yeah, that video has over 359 million views. Oh my gosh. Okay, so like y'all, I mentioned before in the Illuminaughtii doc, I haven't dug like thoroughly deep into Temu as of yet. They have been wanting to work with me for a while, but y'all know I'm gonna I need to really understand a company before I even consider it, and then I need to use the products before I even talk to them about you. That's just the way I do things around here. They're a very different type of company and operate very differently than Shein. They actually operate quite a lot like Amazon, where it's just a whole bunch of sellers all over the place and they're just like housed in this one marketplace. And so like in some ways it's like, great, Amazon needs competition, but also Temu, I need to understand you more. But with that, I am actually very curious if any of you shop Temu. Will you please let me know about your personal experience, good or bad? I want to hear it all. I'm very curious to learn more about them. So please leave me those in the comments. Now that was a lot. I didn't even get into Shein and fast fashion at large's contribution to like climate change or even every little controversy Shein has over the years, but like you get the point. But you know, what's the flip side here? What happens if we try and play devil's advocate here, which is, I think is often a good thing to do to have a healthy and informative discourse. So what would be the defense of Shein? One defense comes from Ann Taylor, who in 2022 was a 25-year-old aspiring fashion influencer from Toronto. She told the New York Times that she saw comment after comment on her own Shein haul videos criticizing Shein, but the comments don't bother her at all. For starters, she thinks that the CL labor rumors help Shein more than they hurt them because there's such a clear lack of evidence supporting that that's even happening. Like I told you, she said before, quote, "How can I stand against them if I don't have anything to back it up?" End quote. Except, like it's obviously not just the CL allegations. I thought I would put that out there. But anyways, she continues on to say that in August 2021, she and her husband decided to get married on a budget. She went to Shein and found a slinky low back white gown on there for 39 Canadian dollars, which is only $28.81 US dollars. She made a TikTok video about the dress in spring of 2022, which by July 2022 had over 900,000 likes. And oh my gosh, the dress looks incredible on her. Shein reposted it and gave her a pair of $100 gift cards, which she used to make her own haul videos. When the New York Times pointed out the allegations of design theft to her, she claimed that she is for, quote, originality 100%, and that she's against logos being used on fake items. But then she said something interesting I think is easy to forget in the Shein conversation. Quote, "I do think that people deserve to have nice things and not pay that kind of money. A lot of us work regular 9-to-5 jobs, can't afford $2,000 shoes." Again, we're playing devil's advocate here, and that statement is one of the absolute most important things to remember about the Shein brand and story. This isn't just influencers hawking Shein hauls, and this isn't some brand for the wealthy. By making their clothing so cheap while still managing to disguise itself as somewhat nicer product than it actually is, Shein makes boutique fashion affordable for the working class. Now, speaking anecdotally for a second, a friend of mine told me while I was researching Shein that their partner was actually filled with complete dread when they found out that I was doing this doc. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Swoop's gonna hate me so much. I just put in a $30 order on Shein." And to be clear, No, that's not actually the point of this doc, and I hope that I can get this point across clearly. Y'all are not the enemy. In the fashion industry, it's often exploitation at all angles because the high cost of fashion and even comfort has made it so that there is always a high cost, whether it's literal or figurative. Going the other direction, I think there are absolute absurdities in the outlandishly priced couture market that often makes people feel like they are somehow inferior if they don't have that new $5,000 Fendi bag or that $2,000 pair of Manolos, honey. Like, yeah, are the items nice? Absolutely. Are they necessary? Absolutely not. When it comes to these conversations, especially when considering the state of the economy after the global shutdown and people just trying to survive and put clothes on their backs and their families, ultimately, like, just where I am, I will never tell any of you how to spend your money or try to shame you for how you spend it. But the truth is, I do believe this is information all of us deserve to know because a lot of these companies don't want you to. Another thing to consider about Shein in the devil's advocate conversation, as opposed to most traditional fashion, accessibility. Shein offers sizes up to 4X in many cases, something that still many boutiques never do. Now, for some, boycotting Shein is a matter of morals, but for others, it's unthinkable because it's one of the few affordable places to find plus size clothing and like nice looking, trendy stuff, which is a conversation that like I don't want to directly criticize as it doesn't impact me the way that it does other people. This is actually a point that was raised back in April 2022 when there was a controversy surrounding TikTok influencer Drew Afualo. Drew has used her platform to call out sexism and misogyny in the media and across the world, but when she announced a partnership with Shein, people were quick to call her a hypocrite in the comments. But Drew raises a few points that I thought were at least worth sharing, again, because we are still playing devil's advocate. One, she said, quote, "Not everybody can afford to shop sustainably," and pointed out that Shein offers a larger selection of plus size options compared to other boutiques. Quote, "If you can afford to shop sustainably, good for you. Not everyone is in that boat. And some for plus size / fat women, we deserve to dress cute too." Now, one person commented a reply that, quote, "There's a difference between knowing that access to ethical clothing is a privilege and using that as an excuse to promote unethical clothing," which is also true. And another comment was posted that got over 4,000 likes that said, quote, "How many of you are complaining about ethical fashion while typing on your iPhones and wearing Nike? I'm just trying to see something," which is also a point. I mean, if we went in and investigated the ethics of every company like Nike, Adidas, Apple, Android products, Prada, Gucci, Starbucks, hell, like let's throw in a Dyson vacuum or Amazon. I mean, holy shit, Amazon has like 500 bazillion million sellers on there. We buy products from there damn near every day, and ain't nobody doing deep dives into every single seller of every box of cat litter and toilet paper or the trending new workout leggings that you got on Prime Day deals, because that would be impossible. The beast of consumerism is just too big to investigate every single facet of it. No one has that kind of time to investigate, and most people are just trying to survive. But no matter how you feel about how Drew handled it, that really opens up the biggest debate to have about Shein and companies like this. This is a company that has been exposed for using forced labor, for sourcing items that allegedly come from actual slave labor, have mismanaged your private information, have stolen hundreds of artist designs, have sold offensive items, are contributing to climate change, and are run by one of the most mysterious and allegedly sketchy billionaires on earth. But, and this is a hesitant but because it doesn't excuse the harmful behavior at all, Shein is also a company that has given back to thousands with their philanthropy and provides an affordable option for people on a tight budget in this shit show of a global economy we're in, as well as more options for plus size individuals everywhere, and right now seems to be working to do better about everything as a company. So what do you think is the answer? Do we work to shut these companies completely down? Or do we just continue to call their ethics into question if they present alarming information and hope they change for the better? Like, I'm not in any way trying to imply that the shit they have provably done isn't atrocious. It is. It is horrendous. It is problematic. It was horrifying in the research. But now what? Do you believe Shein when they say or potentially show that they have changed? That's literally just a question for all of you. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, especially if your name is Chris Shu. Chris, if you're watching this, okay, hit me up. I just got a couple of questions. I just want to talk. I just want to see something. Oh, child, okay, I need a whole lot of kitties on my screen to cleanse my entire soul and palate after this, okay? The Billy department, they are so cute. Remember, you can grab your Petty University apparel linked below and join the community. A couple of Twitter shout outs from my Illuminaughtii doc. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Not only did I get an exclusive interview with her ex-boyfriend who had some truly horrifying things to share, but my team and I put together what is hopefully the most comprehensive coverage of the whole situation, making it easier to understand all of the moving parts. It's one of the best docs that I've done, honestly, and it will be linked below. First shout out goes to Human One, who said, "Thank you for making this. Truthfully, I still hold incredible anger at what this individual put my partner through. Witnessing in real time the stress, sadness, and the crushing self-doubt plaguing someone who means the absolute world to me, that situation haunts me still. I am so profoundly sorry for what you, your partner, everyone involved have been through in that situation with Illuminaughtii." After doing all of that research and just laying everything out, it's horrifying, and I can't imagine, and I just would wish that on no one, and I hope that you all have found some time to just take some time, take a breath, and get some healing and peace through telling all of your stories. Second shout out goes to Killer Bunny, who says, "No matter how much junk there is to go through with whoever is pissing off Professor Petty this week, I love that there is always so much emphasis on the victims and how to get help if you've experienced anything similar." Absolutely love the genuine sincerity and care every time. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. That's my goal with all of the topics I cover, to hopefully provide something that helps you maybe understand better about your own situations if you happen to be going through something difficult. And I love our community so much. You all are so amazing and supportive and graceful, especially when it comes to survivors, and I think that's incredible. Third shout out, because why not, goes to Yisel Ayala, who says, "So many people have covered this subject, but no one has done it as well or as thoroughly and thoughtfully as Swoop. This is the definitive deep dive documentary on Illuminaughtii everyone needs to see." Thank you for the support. If you want to be my next Twitter shout out, make sure to follow me on Twitter at SpankyB, linked below, and retweet this video right here. Also, please do hit me up on Instagram. I know I keep asking. It's linked in the description. That's where I post most often and respond to a lot of DMs, and I really want to hit 100,000 followers there, and it's taken me forever. And that's a goal. That's a personal goal that I have. I would love to have you over there. Be sure to check out Historic Mail by going to historicmail.com/swoop to get 10% off your gifts and get 10% off all of their products with their Father's Day sale. Treat yourself, honey. You deserve it. When it comes to the conversation of the fashion industry, we have a problem, a global problem. Whether it be fast fashion, high fashion, and like everything in between, there are two issues that will always be at odds: the desire for companies to sell at the highest possible profit and the consumer's desire for getting the best value for their money. And when taken to extremes, when each side is pushing for what they want, someone is always going to get hurt. And most often, no matter the industry, those people are the ones making the products, and sometimes even the consumers. The bottom line is most massive companies in the world are only focusing on their bottom line. And in a world where economies are facing seemingly endless uncertainty and human jobs are being replaced by new tech at alarming rates, Where do we go from here? How do we ensure that what we put on our bodies is not endangering the health and lives of others? Can we even ensure that? Is that even possible? I don't have all of the answers to these questions, and I'm not sure if anyone else does, but I want to open the discussion up to you in the comments. If a company has been shown time and time again to have crossed the ethical and legal line, how can anyone be sure that they have righted their wrongs? It would be impossible for consumers to research and analyze every single facet of a company because that information is just not always available. So instead, do we put our trust in these massive companies? And in a world where most people are scraping by, living on tight budgets and working multiple jobs, can we expect them to refuse to shop the lowest prices? For some people, that's survival. So where do we draw the line? Let me know your thoughts. And you know, when all else fails, stay ready, stay petty, class dismissed. Swoop!